All right, 8th grade, this is a language lesson 4 in book 709. What did I say? 6th grade or 7th grade? This is 7th grade, sorry. 7th grade, lesson 4 in language book 709. The title of it is, Which is Subordinate? Now this has to do with clauses. The subordinating clause, the subordinate clause, is if you're subordinate, you're under someone. The subordinate clause is your dependent clause. The clause, either an adverb or an adjective clause that starts with your relative pronouns or your subordinating conjunctions. So the one that does not stand alone. But in this lesson, we're looking especially at the idea that you can decide in a sentence, you can decide which clause to make, either the independent one or the dependent one or the subordinate one. Remember, subordinate clause is the same thing as your dependent clause. Okay? And you can decide in a sentence which one to emphasize. So these two sentences here say the exact same thing, basically. All right? Fanny Crosby, who wrote thousands of hymns, was blind. Fanny Crosby, who was blind, wrote thousands of hymns. But the emphasis is different, because the independent clause is different in each one. What is the independent clause in the top one? So in the top one, the independent clause, the clause that stands alone, the main idea of the sentence is what? Fanny Crosby was blind. So the main idea that the person intended in this sentence is that she was blind. Okay, so Fanny Crosby was blind. That's a sentence by itself. Then you have the dependent clause or the subordinate clause, who wrote thousands of hymns, is information that is added to the main idea. The main idea is that Fanny Crosby was blind. And then you add the information, who wrote thousands of hymns. Okay? Here's your relative pronoun. This is an adjective clause talking about Fanny Crosby. Now in this one, on the bottom sentence, Fanny Crosby, who was blind, wrote thousands of hymns. What is the independent clause here? Fanny Crosby wrote thousands of hymns. All right, so we have that now as our emphasis. Here we have the emphasis that Fanny Crosby was blind. Here the emphasis is Fanny Crosby wrote thousands of hymns. And then we have the subordinate clause or the dependent clause, who was blind. That's just adding interesting information about Fanny Crosby. And the same thing up here. Fanny Crosby is blind and she wrote thousands of hymns. Fanny Crosby wrote thousands of hymns, and by the way, she was blind. Okay? So it's showing you that you can decide when you write a sentence, when you combine sentences into a complex sentence, you can decide what the main idea is of the sentence. You can decide which clause is independent and which clause is dependent or subordinate. Remember, subordinate, when you're talking about subordinate clauses, that's the dependent clause. Your relative pronoun or your subordinating conjunction. Let's look just a little bit on page 15. Page 15, the directions are write complex sentences. So there's two sentences given, and you're going to combine them into one complex sentence, an independent clause and a dependent clause or subordinate clause. Use the second sentence in this first exercise, 1 through 4, use the second sentence as your subordinating clause. That's the dependent clause. So the second sentence is what you're going to begin with, your subordinating conjunction. All right? So let's do that. Let's do number 2. Whitcomb Judson designed the zipper. He could put on and take off his shoes more easily. And you're adding so that. Okay? So all you're doing is Whitcomb Judson designed this zipper so that he could put on and take off his shoes more easily. Do the same thing with number 4. and you're adding the word that. He is of great understanding. He is slow to wrath. So how would you stick that in there? He is of great understanding. He, actually this one, you can go like this. He that is slow to wrath is of great understanding. Okay, you still have there you have your conjunction there in the middle. He that is slow to wrath is of great understanding. Or he is of great understanding that is slow to wrath would work too. Actually, that's not right, because your relative pronoun is supposed to be right after the word that it modifies, right? He that is slow to wrath is of great understanding. That is what you want there, okay? Because yes, that needs to be at the right place. Then the second part, remember, an adverb clause can be at the beginning of a sentence, right? Complex sentences, decide which to use. So you decide in this one. What's the main idea? In number 6, Hugh Moore made the Dixie Cup. He was concerned about the unsanitary customs of sharing dippers. And you could make either one of those your main clause, your independent one. Hugh Moore made the Dixie Cup. Or you could say, Hugh Moore was concerned about the unsanitary custom of sharing dippers, so he made the Dixie Cup, right? Or you could start it, because Hugh Moore made the Dixie Cup, all right? Actually, no, because Hugh Moore was concerned about the unsanitary custom of sharing dippers, he made the Dixie Cup. But you can decide, you decide on 5 and 7, which you want to make the independent and subordinating clauses. Remember, subordinate clause is the same thing as your dependent clause. All right, we will look at lesson 3. I think I have lesson 3 due for Monday. We will look at that a little bit on Monday. I won't mention 4 again till the day that it's due, which is Tuesday. We'll talk about lesson 4, and we'll go over some things there. All right. Have a great weekend. Good day.